Turning to some procedural elements, we have under Article 12 mentioned that the parties to the Convention commit themselves to a program of systematic follow-up. And the way that the working group has implemented that is by establishing a cycle of periodic reviews, peer review, whereby experts from 2 countries will be involved in the peer evaluation of an examined country. Now, putting that into practical context, for example, I'm here this week with experts from the United States and Austria that are evaluating Canada's implementation of the Convention and related instruments during the course of this week. And that is a rotational cycle whereby each of the parties is involved in at least 2 evaluations of others. And we have 3 phases. I've mentioned over here on the phase 3 evaluation of Canada. Just last year, the working group concluded phase 2. And the way that the cycle works is that phase 1 looks at the legislative implementation of the Convention. In other words, is there an offence in the criminal code of foreign bribery? Are there legal provisions to establish liability of companies, money laundering, prohibition on deductibility of bribes as tax? Next, in phase 2, phase 1 was done solely on the papers, so looking at legislation and information provided by each country. Phase 2 went through a much more rigorous process to look at the practical application of that law. It involved, again, a system of questions and answers, but a 1-week on-site visit to the country where evaluating teams met with government, civil society, lawyers, the business sector, accounting and auditing profession, in order to find out what the practical realities were about implementation of this law. Because it's simply not enough to put it on your statute books that it is an offence to bribe if there is no enforcement action. And this brings us to phase 3, the principal focus of work enforcement action. It really is looking at the issue of enforcement and saying, hey, we signed this convention in 1999, we're now 11 years on, what are each of us doing about investigating and prosecuting these cases? Because if the parties to the working group are going to achieve a truly level playing field, then each of the parties needs to take its full role in terms of prosecuting the foreign bribery offence. One of the other, or 2 of the other aspects of phase 3, is to keep the momentum going. As you see, the first pillar there is to look at progress on weaknesses identified in phase 2. Now, each of these phases, the working group adopts a set of recommendations. And so this first pillar is to say, what's happened to those recommendations? Has this country implemented all of the recommendations that were made in phase 1 and 2? If not, why not? The second pillar is to look at legislative and institutional changes. Has the law changed since we last came to the country or looked at the law? In the recent evaluation of Finland, for example, there were revisions to the criminal code in terms of the foreign bribery offence, and there were revisions also to the law of corporate liability. So these are legislative issues that need legislative changes that need to be looked at. In the context of Canada, for example, since phase 2, the RCMP has established an international anti-corruption unit, and so that's an institutional change that the working group will be very interested to hear and learn about.